Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really profound intersection of psychology and philosophy, the dual burden of our intellect. The human mind is absolutely our greatest evolutionary asset, hands down. And yet, ironically, it's also so often the source of our deepest internal suffering. So we're going to unpack exactly how our amazing ability to think so complexly actually forces us to navigate these heavy shadows of past regrets and the looming clouds of future fears. And more importantly, we'll look at how we might actually find a resolution to all this mental fatigue. Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that I am almost certain you can say yes to. Have you ever had a sleepless night, just lying there in the dark, tossing and turning because your mind is locked onto some past mistake? It's basically our brain's favorite 2 a.m. activity, right? Or maybe you're spinning out of control over some future uncertainty. It's a wildly universal experience. We are perfectly physically safe in our beds, yet our minds literally violently pull us away from the present moment. We get held captive by a timeline that doesn't even exist in the now. So why does our mind do this to us? Why does our absolute greatest tool so often turn against our own peace?
Well, let's dive into part one, between past and future.
To really understand this dilemma, we have to look at how our intellect naturally wrestles with the whole concept of time. Unlike other creatures that operate almost entirely in the immediate present, humans have memory and we have foresight. And sure, while those are brilliant tools for survival and progress, they create a very unique vulnerability. Basically, our intellect is constantly time traveling. On one end, our minds fill past years with regret, sorrow, and that painful, endless replay of what we could have done differently. Then, on the other end, the future is this massive blank canvas, and our intellect just loves to paint it with anxiety, worst-case scenarios, and profound uncertainty. And squeezed, incredibly small right in the middle, is the current minute. The tragic irony of this mental tug-of-war is that the intellect is so heavily anchored in the past and the future that it skips right over the now. It causes us to entirely miss the present, which is actually the only moment we truly have any power over.
And that brings us right to part two, the dual burden of intellect.
Now, this psychological phenomenon isn't exactly a new discovery. It's been the subject of intense philosophical debate for centuries. The Islamic scholar and thinker Bediüzzaman Said Nursi articulated this psychological burden with just incredible precision. I want you to really absorb his quote here. He says, "Even the intellect, the most valuable blessing, constantly hurts the heart by thinking of past sorrows and future fears." I mean, he hits the nail on the head. He captures the paradox perfectly. The intellect is absolutely our most valuable blessing. It builds civilizations, it cures diseases, it creates art. Yet, if left completely unchecked and untethered from some higher purpose, it constantly wounds the human heart. It acts as this abrasive force just grinding away at our inner peace because it outright refuses to let go of sorrows that have already happened and fears that haven't even materialized yet. When you break down Bediüzzaman's concept, this intellectual burden creates a really startling ratio. Without a deeper meaning to anchor us, the mind will mix 9 layers of pain into just one single moment of pleasure. Think about that. That tiny 10% slice is the actual momentary worldly pleasure we experience. But the overwhelming 90%, that is the pain layered on top by our own intellect. The knowledge that the pleasure is going to end, the regret of past lost pleasures, and the anxiety of future deprivations. One fleeting moment of joy just gets completely drowned out by the heavy baggage our mind insists on attaching to it. Which leads us to a very heavy but highly logical conclusion within this philosophical framework. If life is strictly limited to this material world, like if there is absolutely nothing beyond the physical, and no overarching meaning to our existence, then the human mind, the intellect itself, actually transforms from a blessing into our greatest burden. It basically becomes a curse, because it gives us the capacity to comprehend our own mortality, to deeply feel the loss of the past, and to dread the absolute finality of the future, all without offering us any ultimate comfort or resolution whatsoever. But hey, we definitely don't have to stay stuck in that philosophical despair. Let's pivot to part 3, the true meaning of anxieties. So what if this psychological friction isn't a glitch in the system? What if the fact that our intellect refuses to just be satisfied with the present material moment is actually a feature, not a bug? If we assume this material life is the absolute limit of existence, then yeah, our constant anxieties and regrets are just a pointless curse. They're cruel biological misfires causing us totally unnecessary suffering. But if we shift the paradigm to assume a greater meaning, a continuation of life in a spiritual dimension, these exact same anxieties get completely reframed. They are no longer a curse, they become a purposeful signal. Just like how physical pain tells you to instantly pull your hand away from a hot stove, this psychological distress is a signal from your own intellect telling you that you are not built solely for this temporary world. Your mind is actually yearning for something eternal.
And that yearning brings us directly to part 4, the glad tidings of the Quran. If the intellect is signaling that we desperately need an eternal perspective to actually find peace, how do we resolve that innate tension? Where do we find that perspective? Well, within this framework, a spiritual resolution is found in this verse from the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, which reads, quote, "Whoever follows my guidance, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve." Now, I want you to notice the specific wording here. It is so precise. In this context, no fear is viewed as directly addressing the intellect's crippling anxiety regarding the future, and nor will they grieve directly resolves the heavy sorrow regarding the past. By aligning with this higher guidance, the framework suggests the mind is finally relieved of its impossible task of trying to control time, allowing the heart to finally, truly experience peace in the present moment.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really reflect on regarding your own relationship with time and your own intellect. Look at your own daily life for a second. Between past regret and future anxiety, which of the two pulls you further away from the present moment? Identifying your specific burden is absolutely the first step to reframing it, not as a curse, but as a crucial signal pointing you toward a greater, more grounded meaning. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep seeking those real moments of presence.